G'day folks, it's Anthony Kilner here with Supernal Radio and another amazing super special show coming up for you today. And I can't even express how excited I am about what's going on. To get us going though, I'll introduce Shirley Sienna from down on the Mornington Peninsula. Good morning, Shirley.
Good morning, Anthony.
How are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
Oh, look, I'm just dandy to see you. It's really cool. Love Zoom. All right. Also introducing Freya from over in WA. How are you, Freya?
I am fabulous, thank you. And I'm thoroughly enjoying your blue electric monkeyness this morning.
It's set to get worse, I think. It's been a long week, I can tell you that. All right. So on today's show, which is amazing, it's all tying in with our July-August issue on the law of time and the 1320 Dreamspell, is the galactic family that I've suddenly become a part of. And so I'm going to introduce Stephanie South, Deborah and Brian Haight, and Eden Sky individually, all connected. They all know each other. They're all connected with José Argüelles, who was, and we'll find out about that more a little bit later. But let's start with you, Stephanie, over in Idaho. How are you? And thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is going to be so much fun. I'm great. Am I supposed to introduce myself or? Well,
why not? Let's go the other way. We'll introduce the whole family first, and then we'll come back to you and you can talk about who you are. So that's good. Okay. All right. So then over in I'm assuming sunny LA or Las Vegas, sorry, is Deborah and Brian Haight. How are you?
We're doing great. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. Well, I've met you several times, Deborah, and I haven't met you before, Brian. So it's really good to sort of put a real face to the pictures I've been seeing. So welcome aboard. And last but not least by any means at all, is Eden Sky. And you're over in Ashland in Oregon. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
It's really good. I love the fact that we're potentially radio. There might be TV. I love the hand going up. Hi. I love it. Sight gags for radio. So all three groups for our listeners out there have a common connection, and it is just amazing. And when you hear their stories, it'll blow you away. And I can't stress that enough. Just listen to these people talk. They're all beautiful and amazing. So let's start with you, Stephanie. Let's get a bit of a history and a bit of a rundown on who you are.
Well, my name is Stephanie South, Red Electric Serpent, and I'm the director of the Foundation for the Law of Time, which José Argüelles had founded. And I was his, I guess you call it apprentice or protege since 2002 until his passing in 2011 in Australia. And we, lived in Australia near Daylesford from 2006 until his passing in 2011. So a lot of our work, was based there, and a lot of the knowledge that I'm working with now came through in the dream time of Australia. So,
yeah, it's excellent. I always kick myself because it was my journey into this didn't really start until a bit later through Shirley into understanding this whole process and what it is. And so I never actually got to meet José. And considering you're only like an hour and a half down the road from where I live, it just would have been so good. And however, he is around all of us a lot of the time, I have to admit. So it's pretty cool. So that's great. So Deborah, not sure who's going to be the spokesman here, Deborah or Brian?
We'll see.
Well, introduce yourselves to our listeners and explain a bit about your connection in all of the family.
Well, my name is Deborah Haight, Ken 113, that's Red Solar Skywalker.
Brian Haight, Red Lunar Serpent, and Ken 145.
And we came into this wonderful family in the early 2000s through multiple synchronicities. which led to us becoming board members for the foundation. And, you know, adding what we know and our expertise to help at that time with the foundation. And through that, we met some incredible people, some of which are sitting here right now, and met Shirley through the 2013 event that was held in Mount Shasta. So, you know, the family is getting larger.
Which is a good thing, I think. The
Yes.
more awareness that we bring to this whole process and understand is just going to be, yeah, amazing for everybody on the planet, or it should be anyway. So, and Eden Sky. Let us.
My name is Eden Sky. I'm a red self-existing Skywalker, kin 173. And 27 years ago, in 1995, I was 18 years old, and José Argüelles' teachings and the galactic time science found me. That's the only way to say it. Found me, completely activated every dimension and cell of my being, and I just started dedicating myself to learning everything I could about it. There was barely anything at that time. So I just sort of taught myself and learned it on a really, really basic level, and just started having a complete transformation on the inner world. Everything was immediately completely different once I started following the cycles of galactic time and just taking in José Argüelles' teachings are simply revelatory. You know, I mean, he's written, I don't even know how many books he's written, so many books. And yet, honestly, you know, his book, Mayan Factor, you know, when I was 18 years old, I was reading it, and, you know, I have almost every sentence, you know, highlighted. But you just take one sentence and just completely trip out on it. I mean, he's just absolutely ahead of his time, brilliant, revelatory. And so anyway, I could say so much about that, but so since that time, I've been upholding José Argüelles' the basic level of his teachings and publishing galactic calendars so that other people can change their entire relationship to time and experience the kind of magic that I experienced, that I started experiencing 27 years ago, and I still am. So yeah.
Excellent. Hey, you wanted to add something to the conversation?
Yeah, so I'd like to actually say thank you to Eden, because it was one of your calendars that found me. And that is how I came to follow my first cycle through the law of time, which absolutely revolutionized my life. And the joy of that for me was that with the synchronicities that were occurring at that time, I actually moved to the oldest rainforest on the planet, the Daintree Rainforest in far north Queensland in Australia. And that was where I went through that transformation. It was extraordinary. So I'm particularly grateful for that. You know, life has been back in synchronicity ever since that properly. Yeah.
Good. Excellent. So do you remember your kin number, Freya?
Not my kin number. I know I'm a red overtone dragon.
Okay. Because one of these smart people, see, I don't do numbers particularly well. Shirley's very good at it. Shirley, did you want to introduce how you met all these wonderful galactic family people?
Well, which is life-changing, yeah. Well, I was leading a retreat up to Harvey Bay and Byron Bay and all around that area, and decided to go to an astrology night with Barige, who was involved with our magazine, not at that time, but since. And walked in, we sat there, and it was great. And he was talking about everyone, and he said, "We have Stephanie South here tonight." And I went, "Oh, that's interesting." And we connected and met up again in Melbourne, and then off she went to Palenque, and really a series of orchestrated synchronic events, you know, just occurred, and really the law of time, and it's been my life ever since. It is life-changing. You know, synchronicity is rampant, and you know,
well, it's only rampant if you look for it.
evolve. And, you know, I realized that things that had happened before I met Stephanie that night started to make sense as well. What had already been coming through, the little I knew really nothing about the law of time itself, just about José or Votan, José, and the harmonic convergence. About probably the year or so before, in 2011, I'd been sitting meditating and Spirit said, go to the computer and look up José Argüelles and the harmonic convergence. I went, oh, why? It was really nothing I was that into. And that's when I found out that he had passed away, when I Googled that. And I went, oh, that's a shame. And thought nothing of it. And then I realized, started to think, oh, maybe they were telling me something, and a few other sort of things like information. As you discover more about the law of time, you realize the information you've already been receiving. And like you start to put it together and place it and things like that. So it's been my journey, and then meeting Deb and meeting Eden. You know, here we all are. It's lovely. And there's a certain energy that you can feel when we come together.
Now,
it does, and there is that energy coming from Spirit.
That's the thing. And I've learned a bit about that energy. So, Shirley, have you added up everyone's kins from today?
No.
Because you normally do. You will normally add up everyone's kids, see what it makes, and then talk about that energy. So while you do that... No, you're the one that does this on radio all the time, so you can do the whole group thing. Jumping back to you, Stephanie.
Hey, what's your number? All right, Overtone Dragon is?
Yeah, I can't deny. Sorry, but I can give you my birthday, which is
all right.
Overtone Dragon is kin 161.
Thank you.
That rings a bell too from when we were over in WA. Okay, so have you got everybody else's, Shirley?
Yeah, 113, 145, 211, 107, 173, and 161 and 185.
Beautiful. All right, while you play with your numbers quietly, I'm going to jump across to you, Stephanie. Can you give us a bit of an insight into your journey into all of this? I mean, you don't just become José's protege without actually being somehow connected in that space.
My journey into all of this, I guess it began with a near-death experience that opened up, say, the other worlds, or opened up the path to being able to perceive, say, higher dimensions. But then that was when I was 19 years old. And then, you know, for a period I studied Tibetan Buddhism and learned how to clear my mind enough so that when my destiny came, I could perceive it. But what I wanted to say is what really, really struck me when I first went, actually Eden was there when I first met José Argüelles, who was with his wife Lloydine at the time at the 28th annual Whole Earth Festival in Davis, California. And Eden was there and a lot of people were there, but the thing that struck me the most, I knew nothing about José until I actually met him. I wasn't even following the calendar yet or anything. So my meeting with him came very differently. But I'll never forget when I first heard him speak, what really activated me was when he said, "Who owns your time owns your mind. Own your own time and know your own mind." And I was working at the time as a newspaper reporter near Portland, Oregon. And I would be sitting at my desk writing the stories and his voice just kept coming in. And I thought, whose time am I living and who am I serving and why am I doing this? And don't I have something greater to do here? And so that reverberated until, you know, everything kind of came together by synchronicity in 2002. The doorway opened. Yeah. Amazing. But I wanted to say though that Eden, you know, since, like she said, since she was 17 or 18, has seeded so many people in such a beautiful, universal way of art and music. I remember meeting Eden, I think right around the time I met José, and she was leading huge groups in Portland, Oregon, and really activating and uplifting a lot of people. So I just want to.
Okay, we'll come back to you in a sec, Shelley. I want to jump to you, Eden, and sort of, so you're really, if I understand this, right at the very pointy end of the start of all of this happening. Is that sort of how it sits in for you? How did you get involved?
Can you ask that question in a different way? I didn't quite understand.
So you were at the, if you were there right at the early days of Jose really starting to take off.
Well, I mean, you have to look at, you know, the continuum. I mean, José Argüelles was already, you know, revolutionary and visionary in the 70s, as you know, in his famous book Mandala, for example. He was already groundbreaking, and then, you know, he had a series of groundbreaking books, you know, sharing just you know, incredible revelations that to this day are still somewhat undervalued or underappreciated, or many people, you know, there's yet to be discovered some of the amazing treasures he brought through even before the calendar. So and my understanding is he actually, you know, after the harmonic convergence in 1987, he formalized the Dreamspell calendar system, the law of time, the foundation of that. And then it was published. It was published in 1990, but then it was in 1992 that they went around the world traveling and gifting them for free everywhere. He just wanted to help people liberate out of artificial man-made time and reconnect to natural time. And so he literally traveled the world, giving free talks, giving this time science away literally for free. That was in you know, starting in 1992. And so I basically, in 1995 was when it found me. So I wasn't at the very beginning, but I was definitely, you know, in maybe one of the first waves, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Lovely, lovely. That's good. Yes, this is sort of where, you know, for our listeners out there, we're covering interviews with all these lovely people, and there's detail, but this is the detail that we're not picking up, you know, just how you actually really got into it. So this is why this is just so beautiful. Now, Shirley, how did you go with tapping in numbers?
Well, and just going back to what you said and what Eden was talking about, really, I guess his journey began when he was, 14 years old and had an epiphany sitting on a pyramid, and it evolved, and it has evolved. And this is the whole thing. This is all about evolving, how we evolve, how everything. So over the decades, and different people have come in and experiences, and how it has evolved and to where we're at now. And Stephanie guides us into the future with more involvement. So none of us can say stuck in how it was. We have to keep going. And he's certainly here, because I'll just tell you, I've added us all up 185, and I've added it up 3 times. 185, 113, 145, 211, 107, 173, and 161. And it comes to 55.
Wow. Wow.
Which is, for everybody listening who doesn't realise out there, if you're in Melbourne, it's yesterday. If you're in the US, where our guests are from, it's today. It's Blue Electric Eagle. It is the kin of the day, 55. And it is a day in Dreamspell history as a huge code. Mm-hmm. And it is I activate in order to create. Bonding mind, I seal the output of vision with the electric tone of service. I'm guided by the power of self-generation. Hello. I am polar kin. I establish the blue galactic spectrum, and it's in the red Skywalker wave spell. Now, that is the ultimate of synchronicity, when we have 6 of us sitting here coming to the day that was specifically, there's so much synchronicity with the day anyway, as Stephanie will tell us if I'll get you to do that. And so when we add all our kin to, and it comes to the day specifically that was chosen by Stephanie for a few different reasons.
Exactly. It's amazing. I just, that's the whole being open to the synchronicity of how the work works. Yeah.
Because Stephanie, can you share a few things about today for you, yesterday for Anthony, Freya and myself?
Yeah, well, today is the galactic signature of the harmonic convergence, August 16th, 1987. And so it's couldn't be more synchronic that we all add up to that. So, and just with the reminder that that's what we're all here for, is the is the absolute unity of the totality of all, and to be made whole again. Really, that's what the harmonic convergence is.
Mm.
No, it's yeah. And anyway, it all just happened because we gave you an option for some dates, and you've just thrown them all down, and everybody can be here. So even Freya has had a very, very amazing month going with things going astray and all over the place. So it's just perfect to get us all together. So just want to jump back to that sort of how everyone got involved. Deborah and Brian, Deborah, you told me this story briefly the other day, and I had to crack up. And I was telling my other half this morning, I said, oh, you know, Brian's the engineer, and he went off and he was in his sort of suit type stuff with his watch on. And so can you share that story? Because I just think it's so beautiful. I just really do. Brian, you can share it. Doesn't matter.
Set it up. I'll set it up, and then I'll let him give it a little bit of what happened. But basically, again, through a series of synchronicities, I read the book Surfers of the Zavuya. I've got chills right now. And that led to just synchronically finding the Sedona Journal, which had an article about the law of time. And I could feel it in my body, but I did not understand it. I was like, I need my engineer husband to come and explain this to me, because I know that there is something here and we need to pay attention. And so he did. We sat down, we talked about it. And then in the back of the magazine was an ad for a 1 week Earth Wizards event that was happening in Oregon. And I just looked at him and I just said, you know, one of us needs to go to this thing, and you're it. You can take it from there.
So I will actually even back up from that, because there's actually several series of synchronicities over the years that led up to this. That was just the one point of where we joined with these folks at the Earth Wizards. But actually in Houston, Texas in 1987, we went and did our own private ceremony with the harmonic convergence back then. Just kind of a word of mouth, just something came in. I had actually one of Jose's original books,
Earth Ascending.
Earth Ascending. And so that was kind of my first reading of his works. Even in high school, though, I went to a parochial school that went through all of history. And I remember still to this day, all the teachings of the calendar, Gregorian calendar, and all of the different things that through Roman history and stuff that everyone's changing. I'd studied all kinds of mythologies, Greek, Roman, Norse. And one of the things I always struggled with was our current calendar. And it has always led me to this, in my engineering background, of how many people think illogically all the time. And we spend so much time band-aiding our society of all these obtuse ways to get there. Well, that's partly because we learn all these strange ways of putting this calendar together, and people, well, that's because of Thor's day is Thor, but that's Norse, but then Moon Day comes from Roman, and it's just this mixed bottle of things. And when you start going, well, why is there 30 days in the month, and there's 31, and there's 28 on this day, and we're just making up stuff as we go on to just kind of fit a story. But think about where we're at in today's society. We listen to this every day, some diatribe about putting something together. Well, that's how controlling all this is. But when you start going to just a 28-day cycle, something real logical, things, you start, you're in sync with the rest of the world. You start thinking, seeing. In my dream state, I connect with people all over the world all the time. And then you get all these things. Oh yeah, I was just thinking about you yesterday, or I called this. I don't need all the computer stuff. We naturally do it. So if you kind of live it, you start opening up to other things, and you start getting out of the spell. So to get back to the story, is when we were in Idaho, when she presented this, the Sedona Journal thing had something said Earth Wizards. My friends had already kidded me that they always called me an Earth Wizard, living between two worlds. So that was another key to, well, I guess I better go to this thing. So when I landed in Oregon, I show up in my polo, and I even brought my golf clubs, and it was kind of a mini vacation thing. we're
No kids,
I have no idea what, I just, okay, I'm gonna learn something. And it's definitely a collective of, it's a tribe of all kinds of folks that were at this thing. This is where I met Stephanie. She's in my Earth family. She's a serpent. Eden's in Skywalker, so I'm married to Skywalker, so I remember meeting her along with all kinds of other folks. Well, I'm the one guy that was wearing a watch, and I'm just here's why I don't know anything about this don't wear a watch thing or time, and I'm just trying to learn, and I'm truly just the total noob in the group, just going, I'm trying to understand this thing. So we go a few days, and everyone's saying, why are you still wearing that watch? You're not supposed to be wearing this watch. Well, about the 4th or 5th day into this, in one of the Earth family teachings, I go, my watch has stopped. I mean, it truly does not work. And everyone starts cracking up. I go, I guess I just take it off and go, I guess I need to get rid of this thing. There was so many magical things that happened there, all the spectrals in the sky, all of the different things that came together. I met lifelong friends there from all over the world. Actually, that was another thing. The other thing I told Debbie that really impressed me, I've gone to a lot of metaphysical things in my life, but it was the first one I met where there were so many males and females, almost of equal number there. That impressed me. Normally it's just all female, a few guys. It was almost 50-50. And I just said, this is really grounded in the way it's something I actually can get behind, because it's real, it's something, there. So that was our kind of interaction. Then we just rolled from there, kind of, as the other said, things just start popping and happening. And if you just listen to that guidance, just something else would come on, something come back, and before you know it, we're sitting on the board helping just organize, because that's all we were doing in service. We were just trying to help. What do you need to get your works out? Our background is, I'm a planner, an engineer, and basically a manager, so I know how to make projects run. That's what I do, and that's really all I was trying to do, stay behind and help Jose and Lloydine kind of get this stuff worked. A lot of the things I specially work with, David Rink did a lot of work, Ken 19. So we worked a lot of trying to get the calendar out to the world and in many languages. That was kind of the thing I was really trying to get out there. How can we get this thing? Don't just think English, get it to people in their native tongue, whatever. It's a galactic calendar. It's for everyone. It's bigger than just this, your country or whatever. We got to get out of that mindset, because this is really law of time, natural law. It's innate. We're born with it. That's where you're at. So anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, and I think that's spot on, because having been involved in writing promotional stuff and then having to get it translated into, I think at that stage we did 6 languages, of which none of I speak, not even English correctly. So, it's a big job, just that alone. And now, Shirley, you wanted to jump in?
Well, I did, because as Brian's giving us the background and all that, and it's such a point. He's an engineer. it doesn't matter who you are, what you are, your culture, your religion, your belief, your day-to-day life. You don't have to fit in, it fits you. Because we all have our place, our plan, our purpose. Out of the 260 kin, you know, there's me or everybody, millions, I guess, of every kin to make out of the 260 if you look at planetary population. But every person is an individual because it plays through you in accordance with your spiritual vibration, your numerology. It plays through you in who you are as a unique individual. So you might have the same kin as a million other people, but it still works for you as an individual. And it doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, as I said, your work, whether you're a scientist or totally floating around the planet doing nothing. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't matter. You don't have to fit it. It fits you. A girlfriend of mine said, I'll never be able to get it. And my resident son said to her, don't worry, it will get you. It does us, you know, and it opens up and activates within us. So if people, and the word galactic sometimes puts people into a spin. I've come to love the word galactic, and to me it's home, because it's not out there and apart from us, it is within us. We are a intergalactic culture, you know. So I think people maybe need to, if they want to have a look, to put some concepts away of what this may be and bring it down to earth. That's where Earth Wizards, bringing it to earth and beyond. So it's really a dynamic that is inclusive. It is the true inclusiveness of this planet, and utilizes everything as he did and you do, looking at so many different religions and different things. It utilizes and includes everything.
Great. Freya.
Yeah, what I find really interesting is, and personally, as well as the snippets I'm getting from everyone, is the law of time. So we're talking natural law, we're talking synchronicity. And then what happens when you start taking a watch off is that you are, yes, you're disconnecting from a linear matrix. So people, I think myself, there were points where I went, well, how's this going to fit with the rest of the world? And this thing about it gets you, the experience of that is, as you follow the, you know, the calendar, the sigils, the days, understanding what's happening, you recognize the frequency of the occurrences within your day, because you're not separate from time, natural time. You're not separate from the rest of creation. Everything's in that frequency together. So there's a natural flow of events that occur, even to the point where linear time, as far as how a lot of the world operates, I won't say the most, because honestly, I believe that that is having an enormous shift in many ways now, is that that then fits you as exactly as you're saying. It starts to fit. Classic example was when I was following the 13 moon calendar. I was in the rainforest where all of this was occurring. It was a yellow star day, and I was in a deep process, like going, I just thought I was like on the edge of the edge of the edge, going, what is happening? And, you know, all I can hear is the quiet voice going, it's a yellow star day. Something wonderful is going to happen. I'm like, oh, it does not feel like something wonderful is happening. And the last place, because in that little place I was in, it's called Cape Tribulation. And it's right up at the point where you can't go any further without a four-wheel drive. And there's no one there. It's like a town of 60 people that's inundated with tourists in the summer, but there's no one there. The houses are secluded in the rainforest, and there's sort of like one backpackers and a bar at the edge of the mangroves, and then the forest and the water. So I go down to the bar and I'm like, I don't want to go to the bar. It's like the last place in the universe I wanted to go. That little quiet voice was like, walk down there. So I'm walking through the dark jungle track to get to the rainforest, through the rainforest to get to the bar. And when I got there, there was this indigenous shaman who I needed to connect with, who only came out of the bush once in a blue moon. Boom, there he was, held his arms open to me, and he was like, tomorrow I'll give you a healing between 2 and 4. And I was like, okay. And for the first time ever, I'd been given a split shift with a break between 2 and 4 in, you know, and so that transformation I needed, if I could follow the guidance, listen to that quiet voice, time, linear time literally starts to morph around those, everything to fit. So you can step in, you're not stepping in and out of it. It is just a flow and everything works. And so that I felt was a really valuable kind of thing for people to be able to start to get their consciousness around, is that you're not having to step in and out of two worlds as such. It might feel like that at first, but it's not. It's actually, it is literally fitting you. Yeah.
It does, Eden.
Yeah, thank you so much, Freya. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of build on what you're saying. Well, one thing I want to say, you know, I personally think the most important thing, if anyone listening either is inspired or wondering what the heck we're talking about, the most important and best thing to do is to decode your own birth date and find out what, like Shirley was talking about, what's your galactic signature. That by finding that out, that immediately enters you into direct connection with the fourth dimension of time. And then from there, like, you know, there's different websites you can get decoded on, different apps. Maybe Anthony will put those resources out, but it's you know, get decoded. And then like Freya and Shirley, everyone's talking about, the galactic time science is alive. And it reveals itself to us. All we have to do is kind of go, huh, what is that? And we can go, what does that mean? And we don't have to understand with our rational mind what it means. We just kind of open to the energies, and it reveals itself, and it unlocks itself, like we're saying, inside of our own being. Because what it's actually doing is awakening our own remembrance of who we actually are in our multidimensional nature. And like Freya was talking about, many people have talked about here, the issue with artificial time, the Gregorian calendar and the 12-month clock, which is created what José Argüelles called the artificial timing frequency of the 1260. The issue is that everybody on the, you know, essentially in the modern world is walking around thinking that's time. That's our only reference point for time, is that these linear, man-made, you know, like Brian was saying, the Gregorian calendar is completely illogical, unscientific. It not only doesn't connect us to nature, it actually completely blockades us to the harmonies of nature. But nobody questions it. That was why I got so passionate about reading José's teachings. He said that Gregorian calendar is the central, unquestioned dogma of Western civilization. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute. Nobody thinks about the calendar. Nobody thinks about the clock. José Argüelles also said, you know, all human beings, just like all creatures, we have inherent telepathic abilities. And the single biggest reason why humans haven't cultivated their inherent telepathic abilities is because they put the concept of time outside of themselves. You know, we look at the clock on the wall or the clock on the computer and go, oh, it's 2:30, I guess I should do this thing, or oh, I gotta go. And the whole 1260 timing frequency, you know, if we're real about it and we really, you know, check in about it, all that it does is create stress, anxiety, constantly running out of time, never have enough time. The whole purpose of the modern calendar that the world follows, you know, is to track when you pay your bills, track your appointments. It does absolutely nothing to give us any kind of inspiration, to give us any kind of connection to the universe. You know, when in reality, like José talked about, the point of a calendar is to synchronize us with nature, right? Instead, we're in this literally artificial, man-made, and the clock. I had a friend with a 6-year-old girl years ago, a little 6-year-old girl, and she was talking about the clock, and she said, oh, I get it. It just wants to turn everybody into a machine. And I was like, exactly. So that's the 1260 timing frequency. Whereas if we decode our birth date and start just checking out the mathematics of this galactic time system, they actually live inside of us. These same mathematics that make up this actual calendar system, they govern the macrocosm, they govern the microcosm. They're codes unifying the harmonies of nature that live within and without. And they're actually very simple. They're just simple symbols and numbers that are repeating and recurring. And you just start to learn to go, oh, what does that mean? I don't know. And you just kind of cycle with it, kind of check it out. And it activates this remembrance of our own multidimensional connection to existence. And the idea is that the 1260 timing frequency, it keeps us trapped, like Freya was saying, in linear time. And from that linear time paradigm, we're in the linear time, linear mind, linear reality. We feel separate from everything. We feel, total scarcity, fear, total like sort of just ego, me, survive, compete. And we only validating what we can perceive with the five senses. And so the third dimension, being trapped in the third dimension, we're cut off from the higher dimensions. As soon as we open up to the higher dimensions, everything changes. And that's why it's about this self-remembrance, because we are multidimensional beings. And so when we're walking around trapped in linear artificial time, we're completely, stunting our own natural capacities.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'll come back to you in a sec, Shirley, because I'm going to throw a point out for all of you to think about, and we'll come back and get your answers. As somebody probably the newest in this group to be involved in this 1320 time and having a foot in a door, and I think, Stephanie, you would understand that when you're working for people and you're working to deadlines, whether it's magazines, stories, blah, blah, blah. It's very hard for someone, myself in my young middle ages, to be able to forget the wall calendar that's sitting behind this screen that I have to look up and go, oh, that's when the next deadline's occurring. That's when I need the art to go. That's where this needs to happen, because everything's based around that time. And so what I guess I'm posing to you is, how do we get older people? How do we get businesses? How do we get people to realize that what this galactic natural law of time that we're learning about, how do we bring that in on a bigger scale? Because individually, yes, we know you start with one and it grows. However, we're not starting with one. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of people out there living this, yet big business, governments, all those sort of stuff, they're keeping everybody locked into that space. So I guess I'm just putting that out there for a discussion, because a lot of older people I know will not get it. Farmers do, believe it or not, because farmers do dark time, light time. And people on the land that I've worked with, dark time, light time. So you get all this done during the light time, and then the dark times when you sleep and you do your eating and your bits and pieces. So, spent a lot of time in outback Australia working with farmers and doing stuff. And it's like, well, it's light, so you're up and you're moving. And they don't really follow the clock unless they have to. So putting, they're more in tune. So anyone that's more in tune with nature is going to be in that space. So I'm just putting it to you guys to have a think about that. And we'll go to Shirley, and then we'll come back and let you guys talk. And I'll throw back to you in a minute, Stephanie. Shirley, go.
Yeah, well, I wanted to throw to Stephanie and put it out there and say, in her opinion, and what she's working on at the moment, how do you think that Votan, José Argüelles, would be working or influencing us now, and how we're evolving and where we're going with Dreamspell and everything? I'd like some input. I thought it'd be good.
If I could answer that, but just rewind for a moment to Anthony's question about people who are new. And my answer is that it's, just to recognize the whole human, and that we're walking between two worlds right now, and that we can hold multiple realities simultaneously. So as you're navigating, the third dimensional deadlines, we operate in this, but at the same time, we're living in the 1320 frequency. And so it's a balance, because really the goal, if there is a goal, is to become whole. And the 13 moon calendar is ultimately a unification matrix. So it can unify any other system or any other calendar. So it's really just looking at things in whole systems rather than separate, like this or that. So we fulfill that while we learn about this. And I think, you know, a key for beginners is to look at to study the history of the Gregorian calendar. And as Brian was saying, the uneven, you know, days of the month, 31, 29, 28, whatever they are. If you add up all of the extra days, you find the hidden 13th moon. And so that's the number 13, which has been suppressed throughout history because it's the number of the feminine. It's the number that allows the circulation and the flow and the cosmic coolness. And so that's just a key for, you know, the beginners. And then your question, Shirley, what would Jose, how did you word that what would he be putting out right now as far as the dream?
Influencing where his vision maybe, which is now evolved into our vision and where we're going. So
yeah, that's a big question also. And I know that, you know, he would say probably, and where he was at before his passing was that all the knowledge has been put out there. It's for people to gravitate, you know, those who resonate with it. It's for them to become empowered, or the self-empowerment is so key right now, I think, in everything, that you trust that the vibration has been sent out there, and then whoever gravitates toward it, because we're in a very different time post 2012 than we were when he put out all of the knowledge that he put out at the beginning. Now, you know, what it was then and what it is now is two different things. But I don't, and you can tell me if you want me to elaborate, but I don't want to dominate.
It's okay. I just want to point out too, for our listeners, at one point, Shirley and Stephanie did a little video for Stephanie's story, and then also Eden and I did a little video, and Eden talks about the Gregorian calendar and how it's made up and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, when you're reading Supernal, you'll actually get links to those videos where there's really other really good information being shared as well. So I just wanted to mention that because, yeah, it's important that our listeners know that there's offshoots to what we're doing right now, that people can go and actually learn a little bit more and be open to what that means. So yeah, just wanted to add that. Yes, Freya?
Also, one of the most interesting things about being incarnated and on Earth is that we have the opportunity to experience this duality and polarity. It's, you know, it's one of the fundamental laws of the universe, you know, of the galaxy and beyond. We get to have contrast, and that is actually this whole Gregorian calendar and the sequence of events that have occurred to bring humanity so out of synchronicity, so disconnected from themselves, from the law of time, is what makes the journey into remembering that so profound. If we didn't have that, we couldn't have the incredible heart opening and joyful expansion into our galactic family oneness, and recognizing our opportunity to not only be surrendered to the process, but also be an active part in it. You know, those little, it's like, I think about when, like, you're rolling a wheel on something, a cart or whatever, down the road, and it hits a small stone, and that stone can put that whole cart dead in its tracks. I can't go. And so there are these little ideas or thoughts in our mind that become like that little stone that can, you know, halt the flow. And the most useful kind of affirmation or like choice point I like to insert in my mind, if there's something in the way, is perhaps an affirmation like, I'm a master of time, you know, I'm aligned with the law of time, and time expands and contracts for me at will. Boom. and then I'm out of that, and then I step back into that sort of a flow. There's all sorts of little neat sort of biohacks, if you will, to help one, keep stepping into that part of themselves and the connectedness with everything. Yeah,
makes sense. Deborah, what would you like to add into this space? You've been very quiet, which is very unlike you.
Really? Well, I've been really enjoying hearing all of this, but I think just going back to what Freya was mentioning earlier about her experiences when she first started tuning into the 13 moon calendar, very similarly, I began to feel like my mind was clearing, and then suddenly the best way I could describe it was as if I had stepped into the well of time, and all of this knowledge just started downloading, and I couldn't keep up, and I was researching and hearing just all of this direction that took so long it kind of scared the family. I think it was like a month that I was just in such a deep reception and alignment with my true self, my true nature, and understanding who I was and the multidimensional aspects of myself. And it was overwhelming in a good way. It was something that really changed my life forever. And so just wanted to add that it's so interesting to hear every one of our experiences and how it shifted us. Just one little thing, it just shifts you into a whole new way of being. And luckily I have a husband that kind of understood what was going on and gave me the space to explore, which is funny because it's a Skywalker thing, right? Skywalkers explore space, and I went out there. And when I came back, I was grounded, and the amount of things that began to just, happen, it was just like dominoes, all of the synchronic things that would occur in our lives. And you just know to pay attention to certain things. It's a frequency that's just like ding, like a little bell goes off, pay attention. And it's because of that alignment to the natural order. So that's my two cents.
2 cents worth. Yeah, it is, I think, for listening to everybody and knowing Shirley's journey, and I know Freya's journey more than the other three. However, I'm getting a good grasp on it. And, for me in that space, when I started learning to play the Native American flute, I went and saw an Indian guy come across to Australia, and he was saying how on the reservation that they would teach the kids to play the flute, not by reading music, but by each hole represents an animal. So when you have your fingers on that hole, it's this animal, when you have that. So they were writing songs using the animals. And I thought, wow, this is great for Mr. Illiterate me. I'll be able to learn to play the flute. So I actually ordered a flute from the Oregon Flute Store. This is well before the days of eBay and all these other online sales things. And so I ordered it and got it back. And I've always learned to play because Spirit would put the sound in my head and say, right, represent, replay what we've just played for you. And that's how I learnt. And in more recent times, through Shirley's connection with us and Day Out of Time, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, we hosted an event, Time is Art, for the movie that came out quite a few years ago now, must be 6 years ago. I can't remember, Shirley. But, yeah. And so as part of that, I got my drone flute, my first. When was it?
It was in 55.
Oh, it was too. Yes, Destruction Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. There's a whole other story about that too.
Froze.
Yeah, air conditioning locked on freeze. The popcorn machine blew up and caught fire. We had all sorts of dramas with the ticketing side of things. It was just, yes, it's all coming back to me as we speak. So so all these things, everything that could go wrong, and the theatre where we did it offered us a free room and food to host another event, and they gave us this big space where we held a whole nother event.
It did day at a time.
Day at a time. And so
What a day.
yeah, it was just amazing. So anyway, so yeah, jumping back to the flute thing, without realizing it, my connection to Jose was through music and not through the visualization of him, because I'd never really seen him, but knowing that there was somebody in the background that was helping me to play the flute in a different way, that the notes didn't have to be crisp, because it wasn't about how crisp a note was, it was the impact it had on the people it needed to connect with. And all the hairs are just standing up on my arms right now, on my back. And so the only other person, funnily enough, that's helped me in the same way is a young girl that passed from polio a long time ago here in Australia in the 1800s. And I went to this location where she visited, and she was there in the room, and she was wearing very old clothes. She had leg irons on, and I, as part of what I do on when I go to these places, I'll play the flute. And it's not about whether the flute's Native American, Australian, or whatever. It's just the music to get people inspired. And she actually got up on the bed. Now, this is a girl that's in spirit, and we actually filmed her dancing on the bed. You could see the footprints on the bed. Right? It was the most amazing thing. So Marianne said to me one time when we're in this room, I really don't like you playing the flute like that. I went, really? I said, so you tell me how you want to play it. So she put in a waltz, which I now call Marianne's waltz, that I play on the drone flute. And it's something that, it's like Jose, it's that same connection. That's how I learn, is they bring their energy about, they put the music in my head, and I just play what comes from my heart at that space. And so, you know, what we're talking about with the whole law of natural time and understanding that it does you, I think for people listening, it doesn't matter what you do, whether it's music or writing or inspiration or getting out in nature or whatever, let it just blend with you. That's all you have to do. There's nothing hard about that. Just tap in. So yeah, you know, my little 2 cents worth. So yeah, in amongst the greatness that's that I'm looking at on screen.
And that listening, I feel like everybody who's been sharing something has touched on, you've got to listen, because if you don't listen, you won't hear.
Absolutely.
Important key to the whole thing. Yeah.
Stephanie.
On the listening, that's so key. I just wanted to share one synchronicity of Anthony of today, as you were just speaking about the flute and your friend who passed, and just noting that your electric monkey signature you share with, you know, Jose's son, Josh, who passed away shortly after the harmonic convergence, and July 13th, where you're at now, would have been his 53rd birthday. And we're in the wave spell of kin 53 right now. And so I think that's really significant, bringing to light those that have crossed over and that have opened up the portals and the doorways for new knowledge to enter, in the place of the heartbreaking of the heart that breaks everything open, so that we can be sensitive enough to listen and to be able to really align with the source and get out of our own way. And so I just think that's really significant that Josh, you know, his son, is the one that opened up all of this and led him on his journey to decode all of this. And so it's just amazing how it all works. And one other thing on Shirley, I met Shirley, like, it was just after Jose had passed away, and I didn't want to go anywhere. I was visiting a friend in Byron Bay, and she thought I really needed to get out because I wouldn't go out of the house for a period. And I decided to go to this astrology group with her, and synchronically Shirley appeared. And so it's so interesting how all of that works, and later gave me a crystal skull, which I took to Mexico for December 21st, 2012. So it's all very significantly woven.
Yeah, it's
before I gave it to you, I was meditating and she said, I am red rainbow serpent. I'm to go with Stephanie. And I didn't know you were red serpent then. I didn't know about the kin codes and things. So all these things, they come and they show us, because you can't make it up. We can't make all this fit. We couldn't have all added up to kin 55 today, meaning to. I mean, hello. You know, all these things, it just is. It's the easiest thing to live with in regard to everything else. It doesn't have to take over. It embraces, and the things that have happened, you know, it's amazing. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. And when things are really tough, I look and I think, what day is it today? Oh, yes, that makes sense. I activate in order, blah, blah, or whatever it is, you know. And today in Melbourne, yeah, we're on the 13th. We're now the 13th of July. It's a 13-13. The 13th of July 2022 is a 13 day. So everything is in accordance with each other. And the other day you said the number 13 is so important at the moment, Stephanie. So what were you, anything you want to elaborate on that?
Did I say that?
You did.
Well, I think it's always important. The number 13 is, you know, it's the key to creation. I mean, number 13 is the key to the feminine. It's the codes of creation. So,
Hayden, you want to jump in?
Yeah, well, we're in the 13th moon right now, so we have about 2 more weeks left in the 13th moon of this year. And the power of 13, like Stephanie's saying, it's the feminine, it's the number of the goddess, it's the number of the spiral, the higher dimensional spiral, and which keeps everything, you know, moving, rather than the 12 is the circle, and then we have the spiral. And that's one of the things I love about this calendar, is that you know, we live in the spiral Milky Way galaxy. When we actually look at the patterns of how everything grows, everything is spiral. We look at the tips of our fingerprints, our fingertips are spiral, our DNA, double helix spiral. Everything is actually spiral. And for me, it's just been, you know, it's been profound to enter into it with a child's mind, just going, whoa, and perceiving patterns and feeling the inherent magic in natural existence. So the power of 13, just by cycling with the 13 months, or with the 13-day cycles, because we have 13-day cycles and 13-month cycles. And just that in itself totally actually reprograms our mind, because we're not used to you know, cycling with the harmonies of 1 through 13. We're not used to it. You know, like Stephanie was saying, in our culture, you know, 13 is taboo. You don't have the 13th floor. You know, everything is 12, 12, 12. There's always 12, and it's like this hidden, suppressed 13 that's, you know, that's coming out. And so what I wanted to say though was, I wanted to share something that I just learned from Stephanie. Was giving a talk a couple days ago, and you said something, Stephanie, you were talking about how you know, how we are the you know, how the infinity loop of time, the zavuya of time that unifies the past and the future through the present, and that unifies you know, the heavenly realm and the earth all coinciding. You know, I heard that, and I've already, you know, contemplated that over many years, but it just like completely it just like catapulted me into like really having this powerful experience of like, wait a minute, like you were saying, you know, if all time is now, like the past, the future, in this present, if all time is now, the timeless no time of all time, then I heard this like voice that was like, it was like a voice of my own, you know, higher self or whatnot. And it was like, by being in the present moment, I am healing the past and blessing the future. I am enlightening the future and healing the past by being in the present moment. And what I understood then, and what's been unraveling in my understanding of how to be a human being, how to be functional, be super grounded, meet my marks, have health, be in harmony with my relations, my responsibilities, yet also maintain this cosmic awareness, was I understood, wait a minute, like this being in the present moment and connecting in with this flow, it actually liberates so much energy and inspiration to meet all of this, meet all these marks, to fulfill all the things on our schedule, all the obligations we have. Like we can free up all this energy by letting go of the pressure that comes from being stuck in linearity, and that comes from regret of the past, anxiety towards the future, and all of that. It just keeps our mind all tangled up, and that actually then we actually have diminished energy to show up for life. And so anyway, that was my long sharing about the spiral on 13.
Well, I'll throw something into that just popped into my mind. If you think about the number 13, you've got a stroke and you've got the 3, join them together, it creates infinity. Put the stick and the 3 together. I'd never thought about it that way. It just popped into my head. So I just drew it down while I was talking, or while you were talking, actually, Eden. Okay, so we're sort of getting to a point where I'd like to hear from you all about the day out of time convergence and sort of what that means to you. And so knowing that our natural time in this space is coming to an end. Let's start with you, Deborah. What day at a time? What does it mean to you, and what does it mean to you, Brian?
Well, typically for us it's a time of reflection and going within and being off any kind of media and like electronics, anything, just really kind of move the communications out and just really kind of, if you're fortunate enough to be in nature, it's a great time to go and sit and just be and make that alignment, like Eden saying, just being aware of being in the present moment. A lot of times before I came into the law of time, I was never in the present moment. I was always in the future, always. I was always like seeing, because I can see, so much. I'm just everything was just playing out like a movie, and because of that, I would miss so much of what was going on at the present moment. So it's just a really good way, just for me, a day to just kind of refocus and go back in and be in that present moment, and also plan for what's coming up in the next year, and or not so much plan, but just to kind of tune into that and be grateful for the things that occurred in this cycle, and did I complete what I wanted to complete. So it's a time of reflection.
Brian, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so generally I look at it, it's kind of a day at a time, it's a day of peace. Today to disconnect, reflect. You kind of are basically closed out last year. Also, you're looking the overlays of all of the glyphs and tones. They overlay time, so they have a meaning of the day, but then you're looking at, okay, the theme of this year is going to be that overlay, and so it is a time to kind of go, okay, this year is going to be this kind of theme. So what I always look at in life is I like to flow with the stream. I want to be not fighting things. I want to be with nature. I want to be with the energy of the year. Each cycle, be present and go, okay, here's what's going on. So when you have times of strife, or if you have challenges, which we all do, it makes it easier. You kind of see, okay, here's what's kind of going on. And again, you've got to live your life. You still got to do that, but it's also a time that the rest of the world, at least a good portion of the world, is actually honoring this day. You know, it's tied to Sirius. You're tied to a galactic beam. All these things are tied into a lot of different overlays if you understand the science. So you definitely don't feel alone that day, at least I don't. And you can, again, we've got sisters and brothers all over the world that are doing the same thing. So anyway, it's usually a joyful day.
Excellent, excellent. I'd like to get your ideas, Eden, on the day at a time. And we actually haven't told people what the date is for the day at a time. So you better tell us the date as well.
The day at a time is always celebrated on July 25th. It is the final day of the 13-moon galactic year, the 365th day before the galactic new year, which is always synchronized with July 26th. And so the idea between activated by people in more than 90 countries around the world is to celebrate peace through culture. Time is art, to as much as possible to stop business as usual. And as much as possible to and find out, you know, like a lot of what Deborah and Brian were speaking about, to see, you know, that the challenge and opportunity is on the day at a time, people all around the world are unified in this frequency because it is the last day of the year before the new year. So like they're saying, it's this day of, you know, culmination, and it's a day of sacred pause is how I think about it. Sacred pause. Like, so that the challenge and the opportunity is, can you, you know, how much space can you give yourself? Can you stop? How much business as usual can you stop? I know this year it'll be a Monday. So, you know, there's some people will not have the ability, the capacity to do that, but perhaps there's an opportunity even inside of your Monday to tune in for a moment. And for me, you know, there's a simplicity in like, you know, the power of just, you know, even if we only have a fractal, you know, amount of time and space to drop in, you know, to our connectivity to the one web of life, you know, to feel that connection to the core of the earth, to feel that connection to the universe, to feel our hearts, to send our genuine love and positive energy, you know, to all of creation, and to feel the link we have with people all around the world, and just to, you know, it doesn't have to be a long thing if you only have a little bit, but to feel that and energize that web of life with your own heart. And, you know, however, you know, and it's open-ended. However, some people gather in, you know, lots of people have festivals or gatherings or celebrate with music and art and community. Other people do, you know, meditation and prayer and ceremony. Some people go out in nature. Some people go to the beach and just do absolutely nothing. You know, it can look like anything, because the idea is time is art. So however you're inspired, like I said, even if you just have a little moment, you know, on your Monday, or if maybe you can take your Monday off and go, wow, it's the day out of time. And then the next year, the next day, July 26th, is always the Galactic New Year.
So yes, I think that's a good thing. And for most people, if they can't, that's what we've done over the years. Shirley and I have done a couple of events where we've just got together with a few people and just sat down and played some music and had a chat. And other times it's been, I'm working flat out, so I'll just stop, and it's all okay. I guess that's the thing. It's all okay. It's what you do. So, Stephanie, what are your plans for day at a time?
Well, you know, my plans are to be in nature also. We've been, you know, there's big events happening in, you know, especially in Russia and China and Taiwan. So I've been making videos for their events. And so the actual day I'll unplug. So there's been a lot of activity. There's the biggest event in the US is in North Carolina, Asheville. And, you know, obviously with you know, with the COVID lockdowns the past couple of years, the festivals and things have came to a minimal. And, you know, but there's things still happening all over the world. So that's, it's also, I want to say it's Galactic Freedom Day, and it's really a day to remember that we're all children of the stars, and to remember the things that unify us rather than what divides us, and know we're only here for a moment.
Yeah, beautifully said, beautifully said. Shirley, what have you got planned for Day at a Time?
Something.
There's a question without notice.
Something I have to do work-wise, but I usually just sit and reflect if I'm not involved in sort of facilitating or something. I usually just sit and reflect and have some time out, and I think of it as my time out because it's not included in the calendar. It literally is a day out of time. It will be, what will it be? Electric Star number 68. So it's about thinking about, for me, I'll think about how I'm going to create. Electric Star is the artist, the creative energy. So I sort of ponder on the kin day itself that it falls on, and whether I just think of it and think, oh, it's a day of time, and take a breath, or take some time out, or, do something big about it. It's always there, at least in a moment, so that I can go, oh, ready for the shift. And it synchronizes going back to the past, present, and future that Eden said before. It synchronizes everything that's been, it brings everything in, and it keeps you in the present. It's really, and it is the last day of that or last kin day of that cosmic moon, which is the turtle moon, the cosmic moon of presence itself. And the turtle shell is the 13, isn't it? The 13 and the 20, very significant of the of everything, really.
Process, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll jump across to Freya. Have you got any plans at this stage?
Well, yes.
Well, as a matter of fact, I do.
I have, I make the day out of time available for myself to create. Also, as part of that creation, to acknowledge my growing edges in the previous year, so that I can be ready to evolve and raise my frequency in those departments, as well as, apart from the joyful things that I'd like to create. So it's a day of self-acknowledgement, self-awareness, and where I'm up to in the spiral of consciousness, creative, artful expression as a divine being, and to move in those new directions, and to listen a lot. I listen a lot to not only to myself but to my higher self and the beings who love me unconditionally. So Shirley and I were having a little, creative exploit some weeks ago about how we co-create together for the day out of time and the time leading up to that. So through the series of events that have occurred, it's clearly where we started this year to be ready for next year, and that's okay. However, some of the other people who I spoke to about how we might collaborate to create a wonderful immersion experience for people who are ready to, or who already connect with that, have literally in the last couple of days gone, please, can you still do something? I said, okay. So that will probably start in the next day or so. Really, I would have liked to have started today, because today is the 13th or the 12th last day as such of the calendar, and then the day of time would be 13. So in the States, you'd have 13 days left of the, so that's an interesting synchronicity as well. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a lot of self-time, but there'll be something beautiful in unity there as well.
Excellent.
And watch this space. Shirley and I are ready and happening in creation mode.
Oh, yeah.
Which sounds great. All right, so we're going to get ready to wrap up.
Remember? I have to say something. It was funny. The other day when after we did a little interview with Stephanie, Anthony was talking about, I can't remember what you were talking about, but it made me add things together. Might have been your flute thing or something we were talking about. And I went, oh, yeah. Oh, you were talking about you felt very impressed and inspired by Votan, by José's flute energy. We were talking about it after that. And I said, well, I think you're really stepping into it now. You're starting to really, must be something important. Then I thought, because Anthony and I make Kin 58 rhythmic mirror. And what's one of the clear signs, and we do mirror. Everything that's going on for one will be going on for the other one. We really do make a mirror. And I then added, I said, well, I added José's number Kin 11 to that, which is 69, which is the year we're coming into on the 26th. It'll be self-existing moon. I said, I think we have some work to do, because you and I, with his presence, his impressive and inspiring presence, make that brand new kin day that we're all going to be in for the whole year, red self-existing moon. And it's the yin yang of the masculine feminine. So I thought that was a beauty.
It was. I do love how all these numbers come through. So yeah, it is. Yeah, I just love it. I just roll with it, you know, because I don't have a head for numbers. So trying to remember what numbers, what for what.
You don't have to remember. That's my job. You do that.
Yeah, I just do what I do. That's it. Okay, so in sort of getting to a point where we're wrapping up, Eden, can you tell us what you've got planned fairly quickly, and also how people can get in touch with you through your website?
You know, what I have planned is to continue dropping in to the
to my lovely little place here in Melbourne. You just drop in. Love it. Love to see you.
To the connection to the divine orchestration, and how that's intersecting in the present moment, and how that divine frequency of truth wants to operate through my humanity. That's my plan. And I'm gonna just follow that inspiration. My basic inspiration is, I just want to keep sharing the magic of this galactic time system. You know, I'm as passionate about the teachings of José Argüelles and the 13 moon galactic calendar as I was 27 years ago when it first found me. I want to continue to find new mediums, new avenues to teach the basics to people, help people understand how fun and easy and simple it is to live the magic, so they can connect in with this and reprogram their minds in harmony. So I'm just open to letting the universe show me, how I can be of service. And I would love for people to check out my website, 13moon.com. We got lots of galactivation resources there. And people are welcome to reach out to me. I'd love to hear from anybody, and I'm happy to answer questions or whatnot. You can decode your birth date. Yeah.
All there on the website. Beautiful, beautiful. Now, Deborah, we covered your book in the magazine. I mentioned that in the story and give reference to the issue that's in. And I am eagerly awaiting part 2. How's that going?
Well, that's what is on my agenda. It's going slowly, but you know, it's a living thing, and so it takes time to, you know, be present and to receive the information and to be able to weave it in the way that it needs to be able to clearly bring through a transmission that will be something different for each person that reads it. So it takes quite a bit to get myself into a place where I can have, you know, moments where that's all I'm doing. I'm a mother and a grandmother, and, you know, life happens, but the goal is to, you know, get pretty far by the end of, well, maybe it's just this whole next year, and we'll see where we get with it. But it, you know, I'm giving myself maybe another year.
Yeah, no, that's all right. All these things take time, you know, regardless of how it works, and regardless how you view time. You know, writing is an art, and it happens in its own time and space. Absolutely.
Can't rush it. That's
The website for people to go to for the book?
the Hierophant series.love.
Yeah, I love that. .love. It's really good. Brian, anything you've got sort of in the pipeline? Just happy.
So the front lines is we have a grandson coming very soon. So that's kind of our immediate focus. I do have a galactic totem pole I've been carving up in Nomicile, and so that's
and then
that's still on the list. And yeah, I've got to finish this little staff that I'm working on. So that's
his art.
my art of while I break away from my daily grind. But we just keep moving on.
That's it. Love it. Love it. And Stephanie, what about you?
I just want to say that Deb and Brian are an incredible support to me and have been for many, many years. And so I just want to say that, and that Deb is very psychically tuned in to me and both of them have been helpful in numerous ways behind the scenes to help further this mission. So I just wanted to say that. And many projects, I won't list things off right now, but I'm working on just different educational projects to step this knowledge down, because Jose's knowledge was so vast, and to show the relevancy for the time that we're living, because I feel a great urgency of this time and all the suffering that's happening on the planet. So I'm always looking for the most universal ways to communicate the medicine of what this is. And I'm grateful to Eden for really, and I hope she steps into the role of teaching the basics more, because my path was a little bit different than that. It was more the Cosmic History Chronicles and a whole vast knowledge base. But really, all of this is about raising our frequency and to become whole humans and for the full healing. That's
excellent. Excellent. And your website?
lawoftime.org, and my blog is 1320 Frequency Shift.
Beautiful. And so listeners should know too that there is an app available that you can get on the phone if you want to download the app. I use it every day. I use it in my readings. I use it all the time. So yeah, I find it's a nice way to get tuned in. The calendars are amazing. Shirley introduced me to the calendars quite a few years ago, which I said to you the other day, Eden. And yeah, they're just so beautiful and colourful, and yeah, and Eden's husband does the actual artwork for all of that too. So it's pretty special. It's pretty special. So all right. So what I'd like to do is just sort of wrap it up and say heartfelt thanks to everybody, including you, Shirley and Freya, for joining us today. It's the first sort of really big, quiet interview that we've done. Normally we try and do one-on-one so that you can get a lot of talking in. However, this has just been really special. I think it's important that people realise just what is out there that is actually doesn't cost them anything and yet gives them so much. I think that's really important. So to each and every one of you, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right, and so for people out there, Supernal magazine australia.com.au, you can access all this information free. You can get to all the back issues as well, plus our podcasts, and all that's available free. Just spread the word. We also, I would say that in the stories that we've got coming up with Stephanie and Deborah and Brian and Eden, and the work that's been done by Shirley and everyone else on the magazine, including Freya's 10 cents worth, because it's never 2 cents. And so all the links for all of these stories will be in there as well as on the podcast. So hope you enjoy Supernal, and to everybody, have a Supernal week.